Another cool thing about Bynum School is that if teachers go to a conference or a workshop and they're like, oh my gosh, they're doing this really cool thing at this school, blah, 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 blah. Let's look into it. So we do. Um, if we don't just have a basic curriculum because that doesn't fit everybody.
Yeah.
So we have a curriculum in preschool, and that one doesn't fit all the preschoolers. So we are so open to this, like Edmark reading works for this group of students, and Frog Street Learning works for this group. And then we have something we implemented a few years ago is unique learning systems, and it is a curriculum focused on people with special needs.
Hi, I'm Jessica McCoy with Raising Midland, a podcast for parents in the Permian. I'm here with my friend Keri St. from Bynum School, which is an incredible place for children and adults here in West Texas. Keri, how's it going?
Great. Good to be here.
Awesome. I'm so glad that you're here. We're going to go over all the things there is to know about Bynum.
All right. Great.
Okay. So the first thing is how did Bynum even get started? Like I know Bynum because I volunteered for Bynum on some of y'all's events, but for somebody who may not know what Bynum is, can you kind of give us the lowdown?
Sure. Bynum School is a private nonprofit school for people with special needs, and they got started 41 years ago.
Wow.
There was four families that needed some extra attention for their children, and they found Kay Bynum, and she worked with them. She was a therapist, and she worked with them in her home. And then it turned into the Developmental Disability Center, and then on to Bynum School.
Wow. So I remember, in the process of being involved with Diamonds and Derricks, which was a pretty large event that y'all hosted and I was a part of to help with that I learned a little bit about the Red Barn. Was that the first iteration of Bynum?
So we were in a farmhouse, and
Cool.
there's a red door, and that's where we moved to after several locations, but that's where we were for many, many years. And we had a vocational building and then the main farmhouse. And eventually we had three oil field trailers that were
Wow.
classrooms. Yes. And so we
Hey, you
lovingly
got to make
called
it
it,
work, man.
right. We lovingly called it the trailer hood. But
Love that.
we always refer to the old building as the red door. And a
Yeah,
lot of our parents just have very fond memories of that.
that's
It
wonderful.
was one of those places where people would drive by and go, my child is not going there. So you had to walk in the front door. You had to walk in that red door and understand that all the love was there and their children would be well taken care of during the day.
Wow.
So yeah.
So 41 years. What a
Mhm.
legacy. I know
Yeah.
that you guys just completed your big renovation a couple years ago and you just recently did another one. Can you talk about that? How many classrooms you have?
We moved, it feels new still, but we moved into our new building in 2018.
Mhm.
And the community came together so big. We raised all the money that we needed for the building plus an endowment in 18 months.
That's insane for people who don't understand how fundraising works. That is unprecedented. Usually it will take a capital campaign, usually is done around 10 years. Every 10 years, I have a minor in nonprofit management. You can tell me if I'm wrong, just hit me in the head.
No.
But about every 10 years, an organization wants to do a capital campaign because what it does is it keeps the lights on,
Mhm.
you know? And if you have an excellent executive director, much like yourself, Keri, you have to really plan for those 10 years. And for you guys to finish that, pretty quickly isn't very impressive. Usually it takes a couple years to figure out your endowment and everything. So that's wonderful.
Right. We had a lot of people in charge, and I wasn't the executive director then, but I was the head of school. And our executive director, plus the capital campaign committee development director, it took a huge team. So we moved into that building, which we were able to, it's a maximum of 122 people,
Wow.
122 students. And at our other farmhouse, we had about 50, and we were tightly
Mhm.
in the classrooms there. So we moved into this building, and we've had some construction that has to be taking place first. And then our plan is to add six more classrooms. And then we also have the vision and in our plans to do a residential community.
That's amazing. That's actually something I've been thinking about a lot lately. I have family friend of mine who has a disabled kiddo, and they're not a kiddo very much anymore. They're 11, and one of the things that they talk about a lot is the stress that can happen on a parent not knowing where their child is going to be in
Yeah.
10, 15 years
Right.
and what that's going to look like.
Hmm.
And we are so lucky to have organizations like Bynum and Spectrum Solutions and share and all of those things. But really thinking about the trajectory of where people are going to go as they
Hmm.
get older is super important, especially for a school like Bynum. Ideally, you would keep your population as they grow, right?
Right. Right.
So, what is the plan for the residential? Like, what's that going to look like? I know you may not be able to speak to specifics yet, but generally, 30,000 foot view, what does it look like?
Well, we have the land, and it's right there where Bynum School is. We were generously donated the 60 acres. So part of that will be used for the residential community. Our plan is to have a vocational program over there, a rec center, a chapel, there'll be admin. And then our goal is to have several types of residential community there. So an independent living, like an apartment complex,
Oh, cool.
where they can live as independently as they can. Then also have maybe a house where there's house parents that would live there for those that need more attention and more care. And then we would also offer a place where the people that have more medical needs might need to stay.
Hmm.
And not just one of each of those, but that's the three types of living we want. And we feel like there'll be a storefront.
Well,
Because,
do you guys have a Christmas market that you guys sell? I know sometimes my friend Savannah at Hancock Group, she owns Hancock. She always sends me all of these informational packets about your students, and they create ornaments, they sell poinsettias, and they
yes.
sell they sell dried spices
Hmm.
a couple years ago.
Yes.
And I just finished my oregano and it was great. But that's so fantastic because, having the opportunity to have your students go from, they can start as very, very young and then they can go into a residential program. You can teach them life skills.
Mhm.
And I can fully appreciate that this world is not made for people that, have special abilities.
Right.
So, speak to that a little bit. How does Bynum help serve children who have and adults who have special abilities?
So we start at age 3,
Mhm.
and our oldest person is 52,
Cool.
and she's been with us since she was 13. So we feel like we provide a good whole child environment. We have our academics, of course, and then we have our community experiences, and then we have teaching job skills and life skills to our older students. At that point, we don't want them to have to move away from their families if they go to Brookwood, for instance,
Mm.
in another town. There are other group homes here, and sometimes there's not spaces for them
Mm.
because of the need. And we now know that we can start with them young and then take them all the way up. Now, some families choose to come just for the first couple of years. If their children are a little delayed as preschoolers, they might can do some great work at Bynum School in socialization and communication because we have those therapies and they can focus on that. And then some come in at a junior high level.
Mhm.
They've done a different option and they
Mhm.
come to Bynum School and they stay through their time of graduation. Or some may come just after they've graduated from another high school, they'll come into our vocational program. So we're really versatile in how we can serve those students. We love taking them in and growing them up with us that this is the best place for them. We always look to see if we're the best fit for them and if they're the best fit for us.
Yeah, it's all about choice, right? So, like,
Yes.
to be able to meet the families where they're at is so important.
Right.
That's also like a little bit of a luxury, right? To be able to have the ability to meet children where they're at, meet families where they're at, because ultimately, it is kind of expensive to be able to put your child anywhere that's outside of public education.
Yes.
But the positive is that you guys are flexible to be able to bring people in where they need. And if they need them in the, elementary pre-K type situation and then they want to transition into public education, that's fantastic. That's
Mhm.
great. That's wonderful. Why is it important for schools like Bynum to exist?
Well, I believe Bynum School is a healthy choice for families.
Mhm.
We are able to provide smaller classroom sizes. There's at least 2 adults in every class, and we don't take more than 10 students in every classroom. So we feel like that's important, quality over quantity. Um, we are able to provide community-based instruction, which is very important. So things that they're learning in the classroom, they're able to take out into the community. For instance, we're teaching students how to communicate by looking at someone, greeting them. They can go to the library
Mhm.
and go in and greet the people at the library and sit through a story time. And so community-based instruction is huge. We also serve in our community. We know that there are so many people that give to Bynum School,
Mhm.
and we want to teach our students to give to others. So we do Meals on Wheels. Many of our classes deliver Meals on Wheels weekly. We work at the food bank. We work at Helping Hands. We've done Goodwill. And then we also have the opportunity to put our students in the community for work site training.
Cool.
Um,
Tell me a little bit about that.
yeah, so we have, I mean, the community has been great. We have students at Velvet Mesquite, at Supermercado, Goodwill, Helping Hands, Chewy's, and
I love the Chewy's plug.
oh,
Being from Austin, that the guy who created Chewy's is super philanthropic. He passed away, I think it was like 3 years ago now, but when Chewy's sold to be the bigger franchise that was super important to the organization.
so the manager at Chewy's was the manager at Outback. And we
Really
used to have our board meetings at Outback. And Eric
nice.
was so awesome. And so when he moved over to Chewy's, we were like, hey, how can we
Let's
be
try
involved?
Mexican
Yeah,
food.
yes. And so that has
Tex-Mex,
been
sorry.
that has been amazing. And then, every once in a while we get chips brought back to the office after they've worked
Their
on the
chips are
dock
so
side.
good.
Oh yeah, with their sauce, of course. Um, so we are out in the community, and I think that that has helped not only our students, but the community, because they see that people with disabilities, which we like to call people with different abilities,
Mhm.
um, have the opportunity to be coworkers and
Mhm.
can be out in the community. They can go to the library, they can go to the restaurants and eat, and they can go to the movie. We have so many families that are like, we have never been to the movie because they can't sit that long. Yes, they can. We have their fidgets with them or whatever they need. We serve them their popcorn, and they know that they are expected to sit there. And
Accommodations are how progress can be made truly.
yes,
It's not about, I think what's really important, because in my day job, I work with kiddos who are on the spectrum, who have physical disabilities, who, they just have different abilities. And, being a person like myself, I'm neurodivergent and I learn differently and product of a 504 and IEP.
hmm,
And personally, I just assume that everyone learns differently.
yes,
And yes, I have college degrees and yes, I have a master's degree. But if I didn't have people in my life
hmm,
that weren't willing to work with me
right,
and say, listen, you're fully capable, let's not listen to whoever is the naysayer here
right,
and let's focus on what you can do. And if you need to learn something differently, then we will, right?
right, right,
And because I think something that's really important to know is the special abilities community is often discriminated against because usually there's a lot of people in this world, especially in education, who will, if they don't fully understand something,
right.
if they don't fully understand that child's abilities or what they struggle with, they will unintentionally sometimes bully them. Can't tell you how many teachers have told me that I'm stupid,
That's sad.
and
Hmm.
it's just because my brain's not wired correctly.
Right.
So,
Or it's
correctly.
wired differently.
Yes. I think that's important to note. And I think what's really great about Bynum, the reason why I love Bynum so much is because you guys say, listen, we don't want children and adults to be viewed as let's push them off to the side
Hmm.
here. Let's
Right.
keep them segregated from our
Mhm.
community. They are important parts of our community.
Definitely.
And they don't need to be people that are just in their own area. They need to be integrated into society because what is more important than teaching your own children the the beauty of what humanity is? We have a friend, family friend, Justice, who's been a student of yours for quite some time.
Yeah.
He was at the Checkers for Children doing art,
Yes.
and his art, his painting went for like $10,000, and
Or
it was
like
beautiful.
40,000.
40. Sorry, Justice.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
Didn't
like,
mean to lowball you there, buddy. But like his art was actually beautiful. And what I really appreciated, because Head Above Water sponsored, you know, an auction item, was what I really enjoyed watching was that you had an art therapy
mhm,
teacher there and was helping Justice kind of with the colors so that
yes,
like the art would look like something somebody would want to put in their home. And
right.
Justice was so excited. First off, he's an angel.
Yes.
Um, but I really enjoy that because I truly believe that if we have more people in our society that are different from ourselves,
Mhm.
it creates an inherent sense of empathy. But then also, like, you realize, I truly believe this, that we are so much more alike than we are different,
Right.
you know?
Well, and think about it. You tend to migrate to the people that are like you,
Mm.
right? And I think we need to open our doors a little further and
Our definition of relationships.
right. Because people like Justice, oh my gosh, I love him so much. And he is one of those kids that thrives at Bynum
Mhm.
School. He loves coming to school. And that was not always his experience in a school setting.
Mhm.
Um, oh, you were talking a little bit about accommodations. One of my favorite things of the day when I'm able to go is morning movement. And in morning movement, I had been in special education for over 30 years. And so part of that research has been that crossing midline and
Oh, don't even get
moving,
me started about crossing the deadline.
you know
Did
that
you
in
know
your
that there's
swimming.
a correlation between literacy and crossing the midline? For those who don't understand, please forgive me, all my friends who are physical therapists and OTs.
Yeah.
But basically, you have four quadrants in your brain: the front part, the back part. Okay, two up front here, two back here. If your child is unable to take their hand from this side of their body to their knee and do it from this side to this knee, if they can't do that and keep moving their hands, there is correlation between your child being unable to read. And the reason for that, please correct me if I'm wrong. I know you're in special education, you're way more educated than I am in this. But basically, the neuroconnections that your body has to make in order to read a full sentence and be literate without any struggles can sometimes be indicative of your child being unable to do that. And I know we see this in swimming a lot
Yeah, I'm sure.
because if your child is delayed in speech, usually that means that that child's going to have a lot of frustration because of something that they are really struggling to develop within their body physically.
Sure.
So that morning movement, are you guys able to kind of assess, where people are, and then you're able to come in with maybe some early interventions?
Well, what happens is everybody does their own thing basically, but all of our therapists are usually in there. Our
Fun.
physical, occupational, neuromusic, and speech therapists are all in there. And you see everybody doing what they can do,
Love.
right? And so we do a lot of music and movement. And we also know, along with the correlation with literacy, that just movement in general gets your brain going. And we need their brains going first thing in the morning. I need my brain going first thing in the morning.
Mhm.
How about you? So in morning movement, we do the movement, we do the dancing. We have a theme every year and a Bible verse that goes with that theme. And then we say the pledge and our school prayer. So what we see is we may have our little preschoolers just kind of jumping around. We have our vocational people that are all in it. We have one person, and I know Rachel it's her favorite person to stand by during morning movement. He is so excited about the singing and the dancing, and he knows every word and he knows every movement.
Maybe I can take some of his rhythm because I have no
Maybe.
rhythm. I
Yeah,
would love to learn how to actually,
he
like, that's a
definitely has it.
dyslexia thing too. Like,
Yeah.
apparently, I have a really, I didn't know this till I met with MCRC,
Uh-huh.
and we kind of got into a rabbit hole off camera about what dyslexia shows up as. So I can understand, like, getting their brain moving
Yeah.
can really get them set up for success that
And
day.
we have some students that the loud noises really bothers them, and some may sit over here, but most of them are active and involved. So every week, a class is responsible for the prayer, the pledge, and the Bible verse. And so you will see students up there that are all into it, love that microphone, and then you'll see others that use their communication device and they
Mhm.
put that with the microphone. And so it's just a what great way to start your day to see all the different accommodations that are taking place, whether they're an actual device or a staff member standing next to a person or helping a student move their arms or get up and move. It's just we are able to do that. We are faith-based, so we're able to do Bible verses and say prayers and sing worship songs, and it's just such a blessing to start our day that way.
That's so neat. My first job out of college was to work for Highland Park United Methodist Church, and they have a night owl program.
Mhm.
It's a ministry that works with families, specifically who have medically complex children. So think trachs, heart conditions, that
Right.
kind of thing. But then also children who have physical disabilities or special abilities, to give them respite twice a week or
Oh, wow.
twice a month.
Mhm.
Gosh, that would be crazy.
Yeah,
They're probably
twice
need
a
all the
week.
phone calls. Be like, twice a week. That's
Right.
great. But it's medical professionals from Children's Health that will come in and volunteer their time
That's awesome.
so that respite is
Mhm.
given to those families.
Right.
I know that that's a big thing. And I know just through getting to know Justice and his family and other families here in Midland that when you have a child that may really benefit from a school like Bynum, that sometimes community, if you don't have a community like Bynum, it can be very isolating
Yes.
to have a child who has special abilities.
Mhm.
So, or even adult family member
Mhm.
who has special abilities. So, how are you guys integrating community? I know this is not one of our questions, but how are you guys integrating community so that families can feel like they're not alone? Because that's what truly is what is so important within
Definitely.
Midland. And I think that's what Midland's really good at is creating
Well, and
community.
unfortunately, there's a high divorce rate with
Hmm.
families with kids with special needs, and we don't want that. It takes a whole village. We know it. We can't just, have one isolated parent or one isolated teacher. Everybody works together. So for Bynum School, we have it's kind of like a PTA, an Association for Families and Teachers, and that group it's for all of our families and all of our staff, and we meet 4 times a year. We come together in the evenings, and if you feed them they will come. We
Hmm.
have dinner, and then we either have announcements or a special program, or the last time they met it was they got in groups at tables and discussed what their greatest needs were and kind of put them into 4 different buckets. So at Bynum we try to do parent um, education, small classes that they can come on campus while their students are in class.
Hmm.
And so they're not having to look for childcare. We do provide childcare at the AFT meetings, but then we also rely heavily on share because that's what they do. And so every parent that comes
I
into
love
Bynum,
Kelly Townbridge.
yes, yes,
We've
me
been
too.
trying to get into, we keep playing phone tag.
Yes, she's awesome. So, Tracy, the executive director, her daughter goes to Bynum School and has
Hmm.
been there for quite a long time. And she works so good with us because she's got all the she has all the respite care. Plus, now she has all that information about how families can tag into um, financial needs and medical needs as their students age older,
Hmm.
out of the public school system. And so we really work together with them. It's I think it's beneficial. We have many families that are a part of that. And Share has many of their activities at Bynum School now that we have
Oh,
a
cool.
now that we have a place for that.
That's so awesome.
Yeah. And so, the community is huge. And we try to do our best to get families together. And then we also depend on Tracy and her efforts at Share to
That
take
is
care of
so
it too.
neat.
Mhm.
That is really cool. Why are accommodations important in education just in general?
Well,
I mean, you're a teacher, so like special education teacher, that's probably you've probably been in hundreds of IEP meetings and 504 meetings and
too many.
too many. That's probably that for anybody who does is never done an IEP meeting, those are very high stress. I've done them myself. My first one was in, I think, fifth grade where I actually had to be there. And
Mhm.
you have to basically go as a student, and it's a whole boardroom of professionals, and they have to get a read on you to see if you're not sound crass and but they basically have to determine if your disability is worth the accommodations that you're trying to get. And I find it dehumanizing, but like it
Well,
scares. It's the first couple times you have to do it. It's kind of scary, but I'll tell you what, I know how to advocate for myself.
sure.
And I know other people like myself, like, that's something that's super important. And I understand the purpose now as an adult,
You're right.
but it's so hard to like go up there and say, no, actually, like I know I look kind of normal,
Mhm.
or like you may not think that I am disabled, but I am.
Right.
And here's why. So,
And this is
why
what you need. Mhm.
exactly? So, on that note, why is it so important for accommodations to be a part of education?
Well, first of all, you and I have accommodations all day long. My glasses are an
Mhm.
accommodation.
Yep.
I carry a paper calendar, which goes against some of my closest working people because they want me to be all technology. I need paper. And that's a
You're a
combination
paper
for me.
person.
I'm a paper
Got
person.
it.
And now I'm doing both, the calendar on my computer and paper, but we all have accommodations.
Mhm.
And why would it be different for people that are identified or have been diagnosed with a special um, disability or a special need? I also think that we all have special needs.
Mhm.
I've fought that term for years and years, but it just seems to be the one that everybody
I
embraces.
know.
So I quit fighting it.
Mhm.
But we all have special needs. So accommodations are the most important thing to help you be successful where you are. We can have a student that is totally capable of getting out of the car at carpool, walking to class, and sitting and getting his backpack put up and start his morning work. And that's okay. Then we can have that one that they've got to have that special greeting when they get out of the car. They need to have a visual. My calendar is my visual. I look at it 200 times a day.
Mhm.
They have a visual that says, this is what you do next. This is what's after that. And here's a chip or whatever it may be for that classroom that says, I have completed that task. He may need that, the other student may not. Um, we have communication. We have those students that are talking just like you and I are. We have those that use sign language or use communication devices or use their picture symbols
Mhm.
to share what they need. So there's so many accommodations. We have those that we have we have a talent show every spring that you should come to if you have never been. And our students want to be on stage. Now, think about that. Are they perfect? No. But is it fun? One of our students, what he wants to do at our talent show is bounce a basketball.
I
He's,
can't do that myself,
well, I
so I
can't
can't
either.
imagine.
And he's in a wheelchair.
That's so
And
cool.
that's what he wants to do is to bounce a basketball. It's a talent. Like
That's
you
so neat.
said,
I
you
can't
and
do
I
it.
can't do it, but that's what he wants to do. And I think one of the things Bynum School is so good at is that we embrace every person that walks in that building and we give them that opportunity at the talent show, at the Christmas program, at graduation to be who they are. And that's one of the reasons I love being at Bynum School is because I have been in other schools before. And with this, you can make a decision about what that student needs and do it.
You have,
Write
like,
a
the
grant.
authority.
Yeah, you write the grant. Go ask for, okay, we need this piece of equipment or we need to write a grant for this, and we get it for them.
Mhm.
Like I said before, our community is so generous and our teachers don't lack for anything that our students need because we write those grants. We ask for general operations, which supports our classroom
Mhm.
supplies and things like that. So, um, that's what I love to see is that we don't have to wait for 3 months to get something
Mhm.
for our student. If we say, "Hey, you know what? They need a special seat," or they don't have to sit in that chair. They can sit on the doodle seat. Well, then we get that for them. And if that helps them be successful, then I think that's everything. And we teach academics. They learn to read and do math and they learn to write. And it may not look like they may not all read and write like you and I do, but it's about communication and being able to read a menu or being able to
Mhm.
use a debit card to pay for a movie theater ticket or
Yeah.
restaurant, you know, order. So
I think
there's a
that's
lot of
so
things.
important. One of the things that I always think about is, what makes accommodations so important to me, at least somebody who had a list of accommodations in school, was, I wouldn't have been able to graduate high school if I didn't have my accommodations.
Hmm.
And,
Right.
my husband, who he's very, very intelligent, he had a hard time understanding my depth of like what I was really struggling with until
Hmm.
I actually had him read the documentation because you have to go through so many tests to be
Right.
classified as having a disability. I mean, there's multiple doctor's appointments, there's multiple psychiatrists and sociologists, not sociologists, psychologists,
Psychologist.
psychologists. There you go, who have to look at you and you have to take tons of tests and evaluations. And not only do you have to do that, you have to do it every 4 years.
Right.
And anytime you're going to another institution
Hmm.
in higher education. And I finally showed him exactly. what my documentation said, and he didn't even realize all that goes into it.
Right.
And when you realize that accommodations can really help people integrate into society so that they can actually provide something and be in society, it kind of reduces their footprint
Yeah.
on the burden, not burden, I don't like to even say that word, but like the struggles that they may have
Hmm.
in life
Yeah.
because
Challenges.
the challenges
Mhm.
for sure.
One of the things that is a huge accommodation at Bynum School is our therapy department. We're so blessed to have one. And I mentioned earlier that we have physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, and neuromusic therapy. Now, there's only one of each of those,
Uh-huh.
and we have over 120 students now. So
Oh my
it's
gosh,
really
they're
hard.
busy.
Yes, but the one thing that they do is it's not just a pull out program where they go get a student, sit in a little room and do 30 minutes of the back and forth. They co treat. So you may see occupational therapy and speech therapy going into a classroom and doing a whole class thing.
Mhm.
You may see neuromusic therapy and physical therapy going into PE and working with a group of students there, or just pulling a couple in the hall and doing some things. So that has really helped. They also help those classroom teachers with ideas and suggestions. And I just think that that
Could
is
you
a
imagine if that
Mhm.
was like just universal?
Yeah.
There's no way. There's no way that could ever happen in public school. Like, and I love
No.
public school, but I'm a huge advocate for public school education. But to give people's perspective, if you're in a public school situation or a school, if you needed those additional screenings or additional, speech pathology or OT, first off, you're not going to get OT in a public school education. You're also not going to get PT, but you will get speech. That's a good example, I feel like, that most people can
Well, and I
understand.
think they have one for every several
Yeah,
schools.
it's
So
like
that's
they have to float.
yeah.
And I know that there's some school districts, like I know that in Nolan County, there's one school that has a dyslexic teacher, and she's responsible for all 5 schools
Right.
in her particular area
Mhm.
outside of Sweetwater. And that's a lot of students
Yeah.
for one person. So it's beautiful that you guys have that all in house
Yes.
because it keeps the children in the
Mhm.
classroom because those kids that are pulled out of their classes in another type school situation, they're missing instructional time.
Yeah.
And that's beneficial too.
Yes.
But because it's all kind of like
Mhm.
minded and like ability children with varying, obviously, variation, they're missing less instructional time. And then it sounds like just based off of your therapists that are on staff, giving teachers ideas about curriculum instruction
Yeah.
in real time,
Right.
that's amazing
That's huge.
because there's years where stuff can go underneath, the rug, and maybe it's just because you didn't have enough eyes on that kid,
Mhm.
so I
It's
can,
very integrated.
yeah, that's wonderful. That's really great. What does the average school experience look like for children that would benefit from Bynum versus the public school education?
Well, I mentioned this earlier, but I believe that quality over quantity is huge. And, public schools are required to take every student that walks in their door. At Bynum School, we have a whole enrollment process. And again, we want to make sure that we're a good fit for that student and that student's a good fit for Bynum School. But I think that the low numbers, the low teacher student ratio is a huge benefit. I believe that the individualization is huge because we can have 10 students in a classroom and there may be 8 different things going on. Like, you're reading a story, this child can answer the questions, this child needs to put it in order, this child is just going to point to the cover of the book. And so our teachers are very well versed in accommodations and just the differentiated instruction that goes on. Also, I think one of the greatest things about Bynum School that benefits our students is going out into the community. So we have a whole thing called CBIs. It's a process that the teachers go through. They plan them. Their lessons are taken at another level with community-based instruction. We had a class or several classes go to a farm not too long ago. And
Nice.
so, obviously they had done some sort of animal unit, but they got to see real life things. And I've mentioned earlier going to a restaurant, going to the library, going to a movie. and then serving out in the community. We think that all of those things are very important because they're not just learning about it in a book in a classroom. They're having to take those skills that are being taught and take them out into real life. And it also helps our families because a lot of families stay home. They don't go out because they're not sure what will set off their child or what will trigger a meltdown or
Mhm.
that their child is just uncomfortable in loud settings. And so we love that they're able to do this. Getting in a van sometimes is the biggest accomplishment for the
Yeah.
CDI. And so the other part about Bynum School is that we do have a vocational program. So we have a ceramic studio, we have a wood shop, we have gardens and greenhouses. And then we are taking students out, not a whole busload of them, but we'll take 1 to 2 students with a job coach and go into these places that we mentioned earlier and teach them how to. They have to wear their uniform, whatever the people at Chewy's are wearing, then that's what they wear. They have to go in and, check in as an employee. At this point, they're not getting paid by
Yeah.
the organization or the company, but they're going in and they're learning how to get all the glasses ready with water and tea or just setting up for the lunch hour. Or some of our students that are bagging groceries at Supermercado, they get tips and they're hilarious. They'll come back and be like, "Look what I got," and
That's awesome.
yeah, taking groceries out to the car. So I feel like we give every student that comes to Bynum School a lot of different experiences, not just classroom academics, but so much more.
That's so neat. Gosh, I know Bynum and I feel like I'm still learning. This is great. Let's see. What resources does Bynum have that are different from other schools? So,
Well,
like, for example, um, homeschooling, right? That's a lot to take on as a
yeah.
parent. Like, I could never do that. I think
Mhm.
that's amazing,
Yeah.
but like, it's just not my
Mm.
spiritual gift. I'll just leave it at that.
Not mine either.
Like,
Mm.
I mean, my mom was a public school educator. I teach kids for a living, and I don't know if I could teach my own kids. I think teachers are incredible.
Yeah.
It does take a village. So let's just say I could imagine a lot of families, if they have their children have special abilities, that it would make a lot of sense for them to not want to branch out. So what makes y'all's school different, and then how are you getting people involved within your school?
Well, so Bynum School's parents do pay tuition,
Mhm.
and I hate that,
Yeah.
but it covers about a third of our budget. So the rest of our budget is based on grants and fundraisers and just community support, which is huge. Um, so that tells you what a commitment the families have to be able to come because many of our families are not two working parents because one of the parents is always taking them to a therapy outside of school or doctor's appointments, usually
It's a
outside of
full-time
Midland.
job.
It is a full-time job. And, if they're, having a hard day, if they're sick or, they're just struggling, they have to be available. And so it's hard for both parents to keep jobs. We have a lot of single parents
Mhm.
and which amazes us. And we have some great people in the community that give for their tuition just for single parents.
Oh, that's really great.
Right. And so, but these parents are still paying for that. So our resources are more, they're generalized because of our community support. We also, like I've said before, I think a huge resource is having therapy on campus.
Yeah.
We feel like that's important and we need to grow that department. And we will. We don't have a space for them as it
Yeah.
is, but that's definitely something that needs to grow. Resources such as Share and we have We Are the World Camp. We haven't
Oh, I
talked about
love
that,
We
but
the World. Oh, we'll have to talk about that for sure.
yeah, and so we feel like we're sharing. Now, we need to do more. Our next AFT meeting is more of a resource fair, and we're trying to get like the medical community, like dentists. Who do you use as a dentist? Who do you use as a doctor? Because it really kind of takes a special person for that as well.
Yeah.
Because most of our kids don't want to go get strapped in a chair with a bunch of
I'm
lights with
afraid of
strangers,
dentists.
right?
I
Um,
am. And I have a couple, like I have two orthodontists that are customers of mine. And like I love you, Dr. Bonolo and Dr. Phillips. Y'all are great. But
I love Dr. Vanilla.
I know Dr. Bonolo is my favorite. She's just the coolest. Her family is just the best. But it's like I don't like going to the dentist. I can't imagine like
Yeah.
sensorily for a lot of other kids. Like,
And a lot of our students have to be put under.
yeah,
And so you have to have that group of people that's okay with.
yeah,
And so providing resources just for things like that and haircuts.
yeah,
We have a dad that cuts hair. We also have a mom that is a hairstylist as well. And he really focuses on, because he has to cut his son's hair
yeah.
who goes to Bynum School, right? And so he's kind of made that one of his specialties.
So tell me about We Are the World Camp.
We Are the World Camp has been going on for many years. Don't make me lie about how many, but I know over 10. And it's probably almost 15 or 20 now.
Wow.
We started, and this is a funny story. Betty Jo Mum at Mark
Uh huh.
was, she had an opportunity camp. And so I started working with her on that. And then it just kind of grew and grew. And then I think I moved, like I started working at Bynum School, and we were thinking, gosh, our kids don't have an opportunity to go to camps like other kids do. And so we just kind of thought, let's do this. So,
That's so Midland.
uh-huh.
Like,
I
hey,
know.
there's a problem. Let's fix it. And then like next week, it's like, oh no, we already have a committee. And like,
Right.
I love that.
It's been great. And so we include clients or students from Bynum School, Midland Children's Rehab Center, and Spectrum. And the families that come are people that we know. So we don't just open it up to the street, and because we need to know what their specialties are, what their special
Yeah.
needs are, what their special health requirements are. And so we open that up to them and their siblings.
Mhm.
And our parents have embraced that and loved it. We did do, like, when I was the director, I don't know what's wrong with these people now, because I had to do 5 weeks in the summer and I was dead
Woo,
at the end of
that is
5 weeks.
that's a lot.
And I'm just kidding, because it's really efficient. We do 3 weeks in the summer, and it's a
Fun.
different age group every week. And like for our older students, like I think it's 11 and up, they come from 9 to 2. So they get to eat lunch together, which makes
Fun.
a huge difference.
Creates
And so,
community.
yeah. And so now Tawny Zachary has been the director for several years. She's amazing, very creative. And she has a group of college students
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
local high school people, and then just others that she has recruited that started with her in high school as a paid staff. And they have science and art and music and recreation.
Mm.
And so it's just a big fun week. And then they also have a day at Christmas and a day at spring break. So the next one will be March 8th.
Wow.
And so she's already having people register for that.
That's going to
And
be
what a
so
great thing
fun.
for parents. They
Yes.
get to drop all their children off if they so choose,
Wow.
and have a little break. I think that's
It also
important.
creates like a strategic, you know, opportunity for those siblings to bond
Yes.
with their sibling,
Yeah.
but then also with other siblings.
Yes.
Because I can appreciate, I said this with, you know, with MCRC, that I can appreciate, you know, it could feel isolating. Like the
Yes.
divorce rate for families with children on the spectrum even are
Mhm.
3 times more likely to happen than if
Mhm.
you had a neuronormative child.
Right.
I don't like that either. I know.
Okay.
There's you have to find, it's like
I know.
I said this with my friends the Iretons. We were talking about how to communicate within the community
Yeah.
is one thing, and then it's like we have to use all these like special words
Right.
in order to connect with the outer community.
Right.
And it's like we're not trying to be insulting, it's just literally what is polite, I guess.
Right.
So that's really great to hear that, families are working together because it does reduce isolation.
Yes.
And ultimately, something that I'm really passionate about is increasing the people's vernacular surrounding mental health,
Yeah.
and respite care for
Yes.
mothers in particular is something that I'm
Definitely.
really passionate about.
Yes.
At Head Above Water Midland, we are educating our coaches on domestic violence initiatives and how to help parents who may be feeling, we're seeing signs of isolation,
Yes.
of depression and anxiety, to even parents that, might be struggling just because they're in the thick of it, raising
Yes.
children,
Right. Our
from ages
AFT,
0 to 6.
right.
So,
Our Association of Families and Teachers are going to start a mentor program in the
mhm.
fall to try to bring in new families with other families that have been there, just to say, hey, AFT is this Thursday. I'll have a spot at my table for you, because that is important.
Yeah.
And we don't want them to be left alone because they're not.
No. Especially with like, I mean, how many students do y'all have?
We have 122 right now, I believe.
That's a lot of families.
It is a lot of
Because it's
families.
not just those individual children, it's their families and their cousins, their aunts and their uncles that are being benefited, that are benefiting from Bynum School. That's fantastic. That's quite a community.
Right.
Let's see. Does Bynum create their own curriculum or is there like a set curriculum? So I know that the state of Texas is creating the curriculum for all public schools, right? So
Not for us.
not for you because one, you're private, but then
Right.
two, you're so specialized. So how do you guys develop your curriculum?
Another cool thing about Bynum School is that if teachers go to a conference or a workshop and they're like, oh my gosh, they're doing this really cool thing at this school, blah, 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 blah. Let's look into it. So we do. If we don't just have a basic curriculum because that doesn't fit everybody.
Yeah.
So we have a curriculum in preschool, and that one doesn't fit all the preschoolers. So we are so open to this, like Edmark reading works for this group of students, and Frog Street Learning works for this group. And then we have something we implemented a few years ago is unique learning systems. And it is a curriculum focused on people with special needs. And it's part technology. So it's on a Chromebook.
Cool.
And then you can also do paper as well.
Uh-huh.
It sends reports. It helps the students know, okay, so you're at this level, you completed that level, you can move to the next level. It helps the
Neat.
teachers with that. And then we have some that are either too high for that or not ready for that yet. And so we look at other things. So it's not a set curriculum for every student because we don't feel like we have to say, you have to use this curriculum in
Right.
first grade.
That's
We
kind of
just use-
counterintuitive.
It is, and we just use a variety. Now we are accredited with Cognia, and so they do come in. They just came in recently, and they look at what we use, and they're really about data.
Mhm.
And so as long as we can show that there's progress happening and whatever we're using, then that's what's important, right?
What's Cognia?
So it's our accreditation body.
Cool.
It's been Southern Association of Colleges and Schools, and there's a few schools in town that
Uh-huh.
use that same accreditation.
Cool.
So they come out, they send a person out. We have to send in a lot of paperwork.
I bet it's all
And
paperwork.
yes, and then this time they did like a Zoom interview with me for about
Great.
2 hours, and
But that was fun.
oh yeah. And so anyway, we will be receiving another accreditation. So we've been accredited for over 25 years.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so we're obviously doing something right according to accreditation body.
Clearly, that's not just like one or two. It's like
Right.
25 years is quite a legacy.
Yeah, so we have accreditation from our preschool through high school.
Wow.
And so that keeps us, real, and they understand that we have a different curriculum to serve the needs of all the students.
It's
As long
amazing.
as we are able to do we have individual program plans. So as long as we're seeing progress on that, then we know that the students are advancing.
How do parents know how their child is progressing? Because I feel like this is just relatable for everybody. Benchmark testing
Yeah.
for public school
Mhm.
is a big thing.
Mhm.
What kind of benchmarks do you guys use for your students?
So we do benchmarks.
Okay.
ULS has that. The Frog Street, the different curriculums have benchmarks. We meet with parents twice a year, and they are involved in developing the IPP. And then we review those every 9 weeks. The teachers review those IPPs every 9 weeks.
Are those
Where
like
are we?
are those like individual instruction plans?
Yes,
IPPs are?
individual program plans.
Okay, cool.
So it's like an IEP.
Okay, great.
And then they're reviewed every year, every 9 weeks, and then the next year they're reassessed
Wow.
to go
Very
forward.
involved family. Like
Yes.
parents have to understand what's going on.
Yes.
They have a chance to advocate for their
Yes.
child. You guys can talk individually saying like this is working, this is not working. So there's
yes.
lots of touch points so that you guys can make sure that that child is learning in the best way possible.
Yes, and the parents have all the opportunity in the world to be as involved as they want with
Oh.
their child's education. And they can say, you know what? we're done working on the ABCs.
Mhm.
We just want him to recognize his name.
Great.
And okay, that's what we're going to do.
That's
This is what
great.
we need you to do at home. This is what we'll do at school.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
It seems like very solutions oriented.
Yes. Well, that's what it should be, right?
Right. Listen,
We want them to be successful.
you and I both know that that's not always the case, right? Like
No.
sometimes we do, they're like the traditional stuff sometimes that a lot of, I just know from my own perspective, I was told that I have to read a certain way and I have to
Mhm.
do math a certain way.
Right.
And then once the accommodations hit, okay, well, no, we can only accommodate you to a certain extent. And like, if you're going to do those accommodations, you can only do it this way. So
Right.
it's very cool that you guys have the level of flexibility while
Yes.
being accredited.
Yes.
And you're backed up by that accreditation
Yes.
organization saying, no, like this is best practices. And I
Mhm.
know MCRC is big on that too.
Yes.
It's one thing for us. I mean, public school education is incredible because it's providing a service for the most amount of people possible, right?
Yes,
But like
yes.
it's a luxury to be able to have individualized attention.
Sure.
But when your special abilities or special needs, it's not a luxury. It's something that is a human right, in my opinion. So, like, you have to be able to have something that's so incredibly important to a human being of being able to say, I am thirsty, I am hungry, I need this to be able to express needs and advocate for themselves is something that is fundamentally a core human like need, right? To
Right.
know these things.
Well, and I think as special educators, we tend to embrace every single child and adult and student that comes through there, and we tend to want to do everything for them. And so one of the things we really have to focus on is teaching them to be as independent as they're capable of being
Yep.
in all different circumstances,
And that
not just for me but for
and it's
other people.
important too, because like that's a unique thing.
Mhm.
That's not something that you can just go take your teacher accreditation exam, right? After you do your 4 years of college. You
Right.
have to, that's not just something you learn. Right. It's just
No.
like nursing school. I'm learning. Like one of my
Right.
friends is in her master's for nursing. She's saying that there's one thing to learn about everything there is to know about oxygen saturations and all of that.
Right.
It's another thing to look at a parent who's dealing with a child who's terminally ill
Right.
and like you can't teach soft skills.
Right.
So like it's super important for all of that to be integrated in a child's education. Like you
Yeah.
have to be able to have those soft skills to be able to meet that family where they're at.
Yes.
Because you can sit here and say best practices, yada, yada, yada. And then a parent is looking at you dead in the eyes and saying, you've never lived a day in my life in my
Right.
shoes, seeing
Right.
what I have to see as a parent and like what I have to work with. It's one thing you cannot teach empathy. It's something that I feel like you're either taught from a very young age and you grow up to be an empathetic person, or something in your life dramatically shifts and you're like, oh my goodness, I had no idea.
Well, and along those lines, it's sometimes funny when we have those parents who their baby doll is so precious
Mhm.
at age 3, slapping somebody, but then at
You have a
age
16-year-old or
yeah,
something, you're
that's
like, oh
not
Lord.
funny anymore. And
Yeah.
so really working with the parents on what's appropriate. They may be reading at a first grade level, but they're 16.
Yeah.
And so we've got to make sure that they're doing things that are appropriate for a 16-year-old.
And that's a hard conversation too.
Huge,
So like
huge hard.
come with a parent and say, listen,
Mhm.
like that takes a level of finesse that you have to have. And not only do you have to have the backup of like accreditations to say, no, listen, like
Mhm.
this is actually what we have to do,
Right.
but also to be able to do that in a way where that parent doesn't feel threatened or judged.
And we don't always get it right.
Yeah. I don't think educators in general, I mean, we work with it too in swim lessons. Like we don't always approach it like the best way, but you're giving it a shot.
Sure.
And that's what special education teachers in general, y'all are like angels because you're there giving it the best fight you can, and I think more often than not parents have empathy for that. At least I hope so.
I think their biggest thing is that they trust that their child will be safe and cared for when they drop them off at Bynum School.
That's great. What does the process of applying to Bynum look like?
So right now it's hard because we don't have a lot of open spaces, but there is a whole process. There's an inquiry form online
Mhm.
that the parents go in and fill out, and then the someone from our school will call and they will set up a phone call with our director of programs, school programs, and she'll make a phone call with that parent initially just to ask more questions, go through the inquiry that they've already sent in, and just get a few more details. And then at that point, they determine, yeah, I think that we'd like to go forward. And so then we have parent meetings. And right now, we're only enrolling in August and in January's right now. But
What a
they come
problem to
through.
have. You have so many
I
students to
know.
love on. That's
It
great.
kills me, but it's okay. So they come in for a parent conference with our director and assistant director of school programs. They see a video, they get all the details. They get a whole packet of information, the tuition, what that looks like, and then they get a tour of the school. After the tour, if the parents are like, okay, we're good to go, then we offer a free day for the student. So
Oh,
the student
fun.
comes in and spends a day with us, and we're able to look at that child and go, you know what, I think we're a fit. And sometimes we're not,
Mhm.
either because of Bynum School and what we offer, or because of the student. It
Mhm.
just depends. And so, and after that, then we either offer enrollment or maybe later. Right now, there's a lot of, if you'd like to stay on the waiting list,
Yeah.
we'll let you know when we have an opening. So that's what's going on right now.
Mhm.
We're in our re-enrollment right now with our families, or it's going to start next week, I believe. And once re-enrollment is completed, then we'll know how many spots we have open.
Wow.
Yeah. So it is a good problem, but I hate it for our community because we have over 70 people on our inquiry list
That's a lot.
and we have like 3 spots.
Oh my God.
Yeah, which that's why we need
just
to
like,
expand and
yeah.
add 6 more classrooms and whatever
So
we need to do.
what efforts are y'all doing to do fundraising? I know we go to Chuckers, try to go every year.
Yeah.
I keep like my kids get sick like right around that time. And I'm like, oh, the last 2 years I haven't been able to go. This last year I did, but the 2 years before that.
Yeah.
That's an incredible event. So Chuckers for Children is a polo match for people to attend, and they have live music. It's so much fun. If you can go, you can go. It's like fantastic.
Yes.
You guys also have Smash.
Yes, and that's this year.
Okay.
We do it every other year. So Smash is this year, October 15th and 16th. And so there'll be more information going out about that.
Smash is a tennis tournament.
Right.
And it's super fun. And is it happening at MCC this year?
Yes.
Great.
Yes, and we'll have dinner and a band as well. So after the tournament, I think we're having a pickleball tournament this year as
Ooh,
well.
fun.
So yeah, pickleball.
I'm
and
trying to
tennis.
learn about pickleball. It's like
Ugh.
it eludes me. I'm a water sports person.
Okay, there you
I
go.
cannot do land sports. It's
I'm
like
just-
watching a baby giraffe learn to walk. Like it's just not coordinated at
Right.
all.
No, I'm going to be a spectator at
Great.
all of it. But
That's great.
what was the question?
Oh, how are we raising money to get this 6 classrooms? So see, it's fine. We can cut that out.
Yeah. Don't even know what the question.
I love it. You're so funny. You're so
The
dry.
6 classrooms.
Love it.
We will be working on a capital campaign in the next year. We're going to we're in the beginning stages. So we are ready. Obviously, the community is ready for us to add on classrooms, and you will be hearing more about it in the next
Love it.
2 years.
Can't wait for mailers.
I know. Yay.
Okay, cool. The last question I have for you is what gives you hope for the future of Midland?
Well, just as I've mentioned so many times before, Midland is such a generous community. And I don't see that just for Bynum School. It's across the board. And I was speaking with a coworker this morning, and really there's nothing that Midland can't do because of the people that live here. And I believe that, if we have a goal, like we're going to build 6 classrooms, we're going to have a residential community. I have no doubt that Midland's going to jump on board with that because they see the need and they know that. I think that we have the people,
Yeah.
we have I don't think this is an insult. We have a small town feel,
Values, small town values,
small town values.
I'd say big city resources.
Resources is a good word. So I feel like the combination of those 2 things is huge.
I
And
agree. I think also what personally for me, just to go off what you're saying, Midland is such a solutions oriented town. This is the type of community that you can't just complain. Like
it's like
people
what
are
do we do
gonna
about it.
yeah, people are gonna look at you and be like, well, you're adding to the problem.
Yeah.
Get out.
Well, and I also
Which
have
I
to say-
appreciate. Like
No,
I
do
like
too.
people that are gonna look at that and say, if you have something that's an issue, then fix it. And if you can't afford to fix it, guess what? There's 30 other people that you could probably just text, even like
Right.
low stakes communication
Uh-huh.
to get the ball rolling. And we are better in unison as a group, as a community,
Mhm.
to get things moving. I mean, we have the spaceport going up,
Mhm.
and I mean, we have Centennial Park has
Yes.
grown, our
Yes.
libraries have grown because
Right.
of people that have said, we want this within our community.
Mhm.
This needs to be fixed, but it takes someone coming up with solutions.
Yes. And I think our city leadership is huge in that.
100%.
Lori Blong is amazing. And I think she jumps in where if people will just say, hey,
Yes.
what about the hole on whatever
Oh,
street? She's like, oh my.
have you tried the pothole app?
No,
It's great.
yeah, it tells
I
where they
find
are
myself
when they're getting
yes,
fixed.
I feel like I'm like a Karen now. Like, sorry,
Right.
sorry to all Karens, but
Yeah.
you know, I'll like look at a pothole and like you can go, they have this little website or whatever on the city of Midland, and you can say exactly where the pothole is.
Uh-huh.
And there's a little bit of a wait process because now everyone's reporting potholes,
Sure.
but it's actually great because then there's a little level of satisfaction
Yeah.
of small town where like you see that one pothole that you reported
And
and
you
like,
reported it.
and then it gets
So leadership is huge.
it's great.
Yeah.
But guess what? People were complaining prior to, Lori being a mayor that there were so many potholes. And then
Uh-huh.
she said, you know what? I'm sick and tired of this. Let's fix it.
Let's do.
So that's what I love about Midland,
Mhm.
that if there's something that you see that needs to be fixed,
Mhm.
I feel like because it is still small town values,
Yeah.
that everyone kind of feels empowered to speak up,
Yes.
which can be helpful and it can also be hurtful.
Yeah.
But if you don't want to be the type that's hurtful, you should try to see who else feels like you and then step up alongside the friends that agree with you to get stuff done.
I think you have to bring solutions to the
Yes.
table to
Because
get
there's
anything
nothing more
fixed.
annoying than somebody who's just like, this is annoying, this is terrible.
Mhm.
And then like you don't actually offer a solution. That is my biggest pet peeve.
Me too.
Can't handle that.
I know.
Well, thank you so much, Keri. You were a
Sure.
joy
Oh,
to
thank
have you
you.
on. I'm gonna show up in like a Roger Federer outfit for
Okay.
Smash and then
Okay.
do a little like fake reporting on SNL, that type of that'd be funny.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. But I wish Bynum all the best, and we'll be
Thank
for
you.
sure in touch for the next couple of months
Yes.
to see how we can help support you guys.
All right.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Thanks, guys. Bye.